Pro basketball is getting a big boost in Canada, and it's starting right here in the Maritimes. The St. John Mill Rats are teaming up with the Halifax Rain Men and the Quebec Kebs to form a new minor professional league. The National Basketball League of Canada, as it will be known, is going to involve several teams from the Maritimes, Quebec and Ontario, including at least one more team for New Brunswick. Carl White is the Vice President of Public Relations with the St. John Mill Rats. He joins me from St. John. Mr. White, good to see you. How is this new league going to work?
Well, what we're looking at doing is bringing some new teams on board from other areas outside of New Brunswick, of course. As you said, we have Quebec, Halifax, and St. John on board now, and we've made approaches to some other communities, for sure, in Ontario, who have come on board and said they have an interest in being part of the league. That would, cities like, in Barrie, London, Moncton, Oshawa and Kingston have indicated that they're interested in being involved in the league, and so we're looking at moving forward. We're looking at some exciting times. And
at some point, if you get all those teams on board, will you? There's a possibility of having two divisions.
That would be the intent. Yeah. Once we get the team signed up, we get it finalized. There's a couple other communities as well that are still, pending and we're in discussions with. So once we get things on track in regards to the teams and get that list finalized, then certainly we'd probably be looking at perhaps two divisions.
Now, these teams, some of these teams broke away from the Premier League in the States because you didn't like the way the league down there was being run. How will a Canadian league differ?
Well, our intent is that once we get things on track, we would have a league commissioner who would be appointed and voted on by representatives of all the teams that are part of the league. That individual will be operating independently from any of the teams in the league. They will not be affiliated with any of the teams. We're looking at setting up our head office in Toronto, actually, for our new league, the National Basketball League of Canada, and so there's going to be a separation between the league teams and the commissioner's office.
The driving force for this is coming from this region. Why not have the league headquarters in St. John or in Halifax or somewhere in eastern Canada?
Well, again, we want to make sure we have a separation, and perception has a lot to do with it. We want to make sure that there's no concept that somebody involved with the league or a team has some influence or control of the operation of the league itself. Because
that was one of the big complaints about the Premier League in the States. That's why the Mill Rats and the Rain Men and the Kebs broke away from that league. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
So where is the money going to come from for this new league?
Well, obviously, the teams that are going to be part of the league, well, there'll be a franchise fee. We're going to be looking at corporate sponsorship that we will get on board. And because, if we're going outside of the smaller community, say, of New Brunswick, we can, and looking at to the bigger picture as a Canadian league, we can look at some corporate sponsorship that will attract some bigger sponsors who will have, corporate operations across the country.
And where will the players come from?
Well, the players certainly, we'll expect to draw players from the U.S., hopefully, from Canada, and of course there will be a number of Canadian complement that each team will be required to have. So we anticipate that we're going to be able to draw from, as I said, from different Canadian cities and also some of the U.S. market.
Mr. White, what evidence is there that Eastern Canada, New Brunswick in particular, can support a league like this?
Well, I believe the evidence is there based on the past season that we had here in St. John with the St. John Mill Rats. We averaged 3,700 fans per game over a 10 regular season home game series. So I think that's a great indication that the fan support is out there. We also did very well in regards to corporate sponsorship. So I think that's an indication that there's interest out there. People are hungry for basketball. There's a lot of interest in basketball in this area, in this region, and I think it serves us well if we look at what happened with our past season here in St. John.
And, of course, there will also be an impact, I presume, on amateur basketball in this region.
Oh, for sure, because one of the things that we've focused on in regards to our operation here in St. John, the St. John Mill Rats, is that we want to be part of the community, out in the community, and a big focus of that was on the youth of the community. Minor basketball programs are very important to us, high school as well, any basketball programs that exist we want to be part of, and we made sure we were available to any of those programs to do what we could to to assist them in run camps and do whatever.
What's a player going to make in this league? Top end.
That's something that's being discussed, still has to be worked out in regards to where we're going to go in regards to salary range. So right now that's not finalized yet as to what we're going to be looking at in regards to salary range for the players.
All right, Mr. White, thanks very much for sharing this with us.
Not a problem.
Take care.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Thank you.
Carl White is the Vice President of Public Relations with the St. John Millrats. I spoke with him from St. John.